The giant hologram spun slowly in the dark chamber, showing a massive ring floating in space. 47 alien species sat watching it, their strange bodies casting odd shadows on the walls. The ring was huge, bigger than any planet, and it circled a dead star that pulsed with cold light. "Impossible," said the crystal-like alien from the Vextari people. His body reflected the blue glow of the hologram. "Every smart person who studied this thing says the same thing. It cannot be finished." Dr. Hannah Kim stood in front of all these powerful aliens. She was human, and her people had only joined this galactic group 5 years ago. Most aliens still thought humans were too new, too young, too reckless. Her hands stayed calm behind her back, but her heart was beating fast. "The builders who started this gave up," the crystal alien continued. "They were smarter than any of us. If they could not do it, how can you?" Hannah stepped forward into the light. "We think differently than you." Whispers filled the room. One alien's antenna twitched. Hannah had learned this meant they were amused or maybe laughing at her. "Different or just foolish?" the alien asked. Hannah ignored the insult. "The ring is almost complete. 92% finished. The old builders used technology we do not have. But we do not need it. We can use simple force, fusion power, tiny robot builders, and basic construction methods. Your people have been in space for less than 200 years, the crystal alien said. His voice was cold. "You have such pride for one so young." "We have what we need," Hannah replied firmly. "You have all studied this structure for decades. You all decided it was impossible. We have decided it is only very difficult." Lieutenant Jiho Park, standing beside her, brought up numbers and plans on the hologram. "We can finish the ring in 18 months. We have 12,000 engineers ready. We have ships. We have courage to take risks." An old alien with 4 eyes spoke next. Her name was Lara, and she was wise. "But you do not know why the builders stopped. The structure has been empty for thousands of years. What if they left it unfinished for a reason?" Hannah paused. She had thought about this many times in the dark hours before sleep. "Then we will learn that reason. But leaving it unfinished solves nothing. The structure exists. We should know what it was meant to be." Nobody spoke for a long moment. The room felt heavy with tension. Finally, the council leader's voice echoed through the chamber. "The council will allow this. But understand, this is a human project. We will watch. We will record everything. But we will not take responsibility for what happens." "We accept," Hannah said. As they walked out of the chamber, Jiho leaned close and whispered, "You know what our scans showed? The strange energy from the center." "I know," Hannah said quietly. "We will be careful." But even saying those words, she wondered if careful would be enough. 3 weeks passed. The human ships arrived at the dead star and its ring. Hannah stood on the bridge of her ship, the Determination, watching the structure grow larger in the window. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The ring stretched for thousands of miles, made of silver and black metal that seemed to swallow light. The dead star at its center pulsed like a heartbeat, steady, cold, patient. "Starting our scans now," said Mina Lee from her station. "Dr. Kim, you need to see this." Hannah moved to look at Mina's screen. The scans showed the inside of the structure was more complicated than they thought. Entire sections had been sealed. Power lines went nowhere. Rooms had been welded shut on purpose. "It looks like they were hiding something," Mina whispered. "Or keeping something trapped inside," Hannah said softly. Commander Daeho Choi joined them. His old face showed worry. "Should we tell the council about this?" Hannah thought about the alien species and how they expected humans to fail. "No, not yet. We need to know more first. Send out the survey teams." Over the next month, human workers spread across the structure like ants on a huge metal tree. They sent cameras into sealed areas. They studied the metal. They mapped the power systems. Engineer Saman Yun was the first to translate some of the old builders' writing. She ran to Hannah's office, holding her computer tight with both hands and breathing hard. "Dr. Kim, look at this." Saman's voice shook with excitement. "I translated the writing we found near the main power center. It is a warning." Hannah read the words on the screen. In simple language they said, "What sleeps must not wake. What is chained must stay bound. The circle incomplete is the seal complete." "The circle," Hannah breathed. "They mean the ring. They left it incomplete on purpose." "But why?" Saman asked. Before Hannah could answer, Jiho's voice came through her radio, urgent and sharp. "Dr. Kim, we found something in Ring Section 7. You need to come now." Hannah and Saman ran through the metal corridors, their magnetic boots making loud clanging sounds. They found Jiho and other engineers standing around a massive door. It was covered with the same warning symbols Salmon had been translating. "We did not open it," Jiho said quickly. "But look." He pointed to a small gap at the edge of the door. Through it, Hannah could see a soft blue light glowing and pulsing in rhythm with the dead star. "What is inside?" Salmon asked. "I do not know," Hannah said slowly. "But I think this is what the council should have asked us. Not if we could complete this structure, but if we should." She stood there for a long time staring at that pulsing blue light. Behind her, the work of 12,000 human engineers continued. Ships moved materials, cutting tools sparked, tiny robots built components piece by piece. Humanity was building the impossible. But Hannah was beginning to suspect they were also unlocking something that had been locked away for a very good reason. "Watch this door," she ordered. "No one goes inside until we understand more." But even as she gave the order, she knew time was running out. The project had momentum now. There would be pressure to finish quickly, to prove humanity belonged among the stars. And somewhere in the structure's sealed heart, something waited in the dark. 6 months passed and the human fleet had changed the megastructure completely. New sections glowed with power, their lights like jewels against the darkness of space. The alien ships stayed far away, watching everything with cameras and sensors, fascinated but also afraid. On the determination, senior engineer Taehyun Kong wiped sweat from his face as he looked at the day's work reports. They had completed another 10% of the ring, much faster than planned. "We are making the galaxy eat their words," said Yuna Shin, his assistant. She showed him a message from the Galactic Council. "The crystal alien actually sent us congratulations." That must have hurt his pride. Taehyun laughed, but his eyes kept looking at another screen, the one showing energy readings from the ring's center. The power levels had been rising steadily for 3 weeks. "Has Dr. Kim seen these numbers?" Yuna asked, following his worried gaze. "Every day. She says it is probably just the structure's systems turning on as we connect more sections." Taehyun frowned deeply. "But I have done this job for 20 years. I have never seen power readings like this. It is almost like something is waking up." An alarm beeped. "We have visitors," Yuna said. "The Threnquat observation ship wants to dock." The old alien SH Lara arrived an hour later. Her 4 eyes looked at everything in the command center with an intensity that made Taehyun uncomfortable. "You have made amazing progress," SH Lara said through her translator device. "Too amazing, perhaps. Can success be too good?" Yuna asked. "When you do not understand what you are succeeding at, yes." SH Lara moved to the central display with her 6 arms. "My people have been studying the warning beacons around this structure. There are 17 of them. We have translated more." She showed her findings. The ancient symbols appeared with translations in human language. "The devourer sleeps. The circle binds. The silence protects." "The devourer?" Taehyun felt ice run down his back. "What does that mean?" "We do not know. But every warning speaks of keeping the circle incomplete. Your construction is nearly 70% finished. Soon the structure will have strength it has not had in thousands of years." "Dr. Kim knows about the warnings," Yuna said defensively. "We are being careful." "Are you?" All of SH Lara's eyes focused on her at once. "Then why have you begun working on the core power systems? The very sections the builders sealed." Taehyun and Yuna looked at each other with surprise and worry. "The core is necessary," Taehyun said. "We cannot complete the ring without connecting the central power network. It is basic engineering." "Nothing about this structure is basic," SH Lara said. "I am leaving a message with your Dr. Kim. I hope she listens before it is too late." After she left, Yuna checked the core section work orders on her computer. "Taehyun, she is right. We started work on the sealed sections 3 days ago. Teams led by Hyun and Nari Park." "The brother and sister?" Taehyun pulled up their location. "They are in section 7. That is where the glowing door is," Yuna finished his sentence. "The one Dr. Kim said to leave alone." Taehyun was already moving, grabbing his space suit from its storage. "Get me a direct communication line to that section. Now." But communication with Section 7 had gone silent 20 minutes earlier. Deep inside the megastructure, Hyun Park worked his cutting laser along the sealed door's edge. His sister Nari watched the power readings on her tablet, her young face lit by the screen's glow. "I do not know, Hyun," she said nervously. "Dr. Kim's orders were very clear." "Dr. Kim also wants the structure finished on schedule," Hyun replied. His laser cut through another bit of ancient metal. We cannot route power through the core without accessing these rooms. It has been 6 months and nothing bad has happened. These warnings are probably just religious nonsense from a superstitious civilization. The blue glow from beyond the door had grown brighter as they worked. It pulsed now with an almost hypnotic rhythm, like a heartbeat calling to them. Just 1 more minute, Hyun said. Then we can get a camera inside and... The door suddenly split open with a sound like tearing paper. The blue light flooded out, blindingly bright. Both of them stumbled backward, their eyes watering with pain. When Hyun could see again he wished he could not. The chamber beyond was enormous, so huge he could not see the far wall. And it was full of that blue light, swirling like liquid smoke, like something that could not decide if it was solid or gas or something else entirely. And in the center of the chamber, something looked back at him. It had no shape he could describe. It was there and not there at the same time, a shadow that made its own light, a presence that pushed against his mind like pressure against his ears during a deep dive. Close the door, Nari whispered in terror. Hyun closed the light surged forward like a wave. Hyun had time for one scream, cut short as his radio died. His suit systems failed one by one, displays going dark. Nari grabbed his arm, trying to pull him away, but the blue light was already washing over them both. It did not hurt. That was the strangest thing. It felt like being unmade gently, taken apart piece by piece, every cell examined and found wanting. Hyun tried to speak, to warn someone, but his voice would not work. The last thing he saw was Nari's face, frozen in silent terror as the blue light claimed them both. On the bridge, Mina Lee's voice was sharp with panic. Lost contact with Team 7. Their suits went offline at the same time. Life signs? None detected. Hannah felt ice flood through her body. Get emergency teams down there. Seal that section and... Wait, Mina interrupted, her voice full of fear. The energy readings. They are spiking across the entire structure. Whatever they opened, it is spreading. On the view screen, they watched as section after section of the megastructure began to glow with that eerie blue light. It moved through the corridors like water through pipes, following the pathways humanity had just finished connecting. We linked the systems, Hannah said in horror. We gave it away to spread. Evacuate everyone, Commander Choi ordered. Full retreat to the ships. But it was already too late for some. Hannah watched the death reports grow. Hyun and Nari Park. 12 members of the core team. 37 engineers in the connecting sections. People were dying because of her decisions. Dr. Kim, Jiho said quietly. We need to go. The entity is heading toward the main power hub. Hannah looked at the ring on the screen, now crawling with blue light like veins of poison spreading through a body. They had not failed. This was worse. They had succeeded in completing the structure, and in doing so, they had opened a prison door that should have stayed closed forever. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. For the first time in 300 years, every member species sent their highest leaders. They all watched the same video feed, the megastructure now 40% covered with that pulsing blue light. You were warned, the crystal alien said, though his voice held no triumph. Only fear. The builders left those warnings for a reason. Hannah stood before them again, but this time there was no pride in how she stood. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She had not slept in 3 days. We know. We take full responsibility. Responsibility? The insect-like alien's antenna trembled with barely controlled anger. You have released something that destroyed a civilization far more advanced than any of ours. What will your responsibility mean when it spreads beyond that structure? It will not, Hannah said firmly. We have established a quarantine zone. 3,000 kilometers radius. Nothing enters or leaves. And how long will that hold? HFY asked. The old alien moved to the center of the chamber. We have been studying the ancient records. The builders called it Talmaketh. In their language, it means the silence that devours. It is not a creature, not as we understand them. She brought up data that painted a terrifying picture. It is a quantum anomaly, a being that exists partially in our dimension and partially in subspace. It feeds on electromagnetic energy, all forms of it. What? The electrical signals in your brain and heart. It eats energy and grows stronger. How do we fight it? Commander Choi asked. You do not, HFY said simply. The builders could not. They had technology that could bend spacetime itself, and still they failed to destroy it. All they could do was trap it, seal it in that ring structure and leave the circle deliberately incomplete. The open sections disrupted its quantum stability, kept it sleeping. But we completed those sections, Hannah said, her voice empty. We gave it stability. Yes. And now it awakens fully. Yuna Shin had been working frantically with Saman Yun, the engineer who first translated the warnings. Together they had pieced together more of the builders' records. Yuna brought their findings to the council. The builders tried everything, she said, showing translated logs. Weapons, force fields, even trying to collapse spacetime itself. Nothing worked. The entity adapted to every attack. It learned from every attempt to destroy it. Then what killed the builders? Someone asked. Saman answered, her voice shaking. It did. According to their final records, once they realized they could not destroy it, they built the prison ring. But sealing it inside required someone to stay in the core chamber, manually operating the containment systems. Volunteers stayed behind, thousands of them. They kept the entity contained while the rest of their civilization evacuated. And then, she could not finish. They sealed themselves inside with it, Ashlara said. The entity consumed them. But their sacrifice bought time for the ring structure to be damaged, for key sections to be destroyed, making it incomplete. The entity went dormant, its quantum stability disrupted by the gaps in the structure. The chamber was silent. Finally, the council leader spoke. Then there is only one solution. We must destroy the structure entirely. A full weapons bombardment. No. Hannah's voice echoed through the chamber. There are still humans inside. We lost contact with most sections, but we know at least 300 people are trapped in pockets throughout the structure. Some of their last messages said they found safe rooms, sealed sections the entity has not reached yet. 300 lives against the potential death of billions, the crystal alien said. It is unfortunate but necessary. Give us time, Hannah pleaded. We got them into this mess. Let us try to get them out. The council talked among themselves. Finally the leader spoke. You have 48 hours. After that, we will do what must be done. Back on the determination, Hannah gathered her senior staff. Taehyun, Yuna, Samin, Mina, Jiho, and Commander Choi stood around the planning table. 48 hours to rescue 300 people from a structure crawling with a quantum entity that eats energy, Taehyun said. I have had better odds. We need to understand it better, Samin said. She showed the data SH Lara had provided. Look at this. The entity moves through the structure following the power networks. It is drawn to active systems, lights, computers, life support. So it follows electromagnetic signatures, Mina said slowly. What if we went in cold? No active systems, no power emissions. Dead ships, Jiho said. We would have to drift in on minimal thrust, cut all non-essential systems. The entity might not detect us. Might, Commander Choi emphasized. And if it does, our crews would have no defenses, no way to escape quickly. It is still our best chance, Hannah said. She looked at each of them. I am not ordering anyone on this mission. I am asking for volunteers. Every hand went up without hesitation. 2 hours later, 6 small rescue craft drifted toward the megastructure, their systems running on minimal battery power. No engines. No lights except for emergency chemical glow sticks. The crews wore old-style spacesuits without electronic heating. They would be cold, but they would be invisible to the entity. Hannah led one team. As they approached the outer ring sections, she could see the blue light pulsing through the corridors. It moved with terrible beauty, like glowing water flowing through the veins of some vast creature. Remember, she whispered into her radio, the only active system and only on short range. The survivors will be in sections with failed power. Look for dark zones. They found the first group in Section 12, 15 engineers huddled in an equipment room, their suit batteries nearly dead. They had survived by sealing the door and cutting all power. The entity had flowed past them, attracted to more active sections. Stay quiet, stay dark, Hannah told them. We are getting you out. The rescue went forward in agonizing silence. Hannah's team moved through the darkened corridors, using paper maps drawn from memory. Every time the blue light appeared ahead, they froze, barely breathing until it passed. They saved 40 people from Section 12. Another 60 from Sections 18 and 19. Jiho's team rescued 35 from a sealed laboratory. But as they moved deeper, they realized the entity was learning. Taehyun's team encountered it first. They were moving through a dark corridor when the blue light suddenly appeared, not flowing toward active systems, but blocking their path as if waiting for them. Back up slowly, Taehyun whispered. Do not make any sudden. The light surged forward. Taehyun's suit alarm screamed as the entity touched his boot. Power drained from his battery pack in seconds. He felt his heating fail, his oxygen system stutter. Go, he shouted to his team. Leave me in. But Yuna grabbed him, pulling him backward with desperate strength. The rest of the team threw everything they had, tools, spare parts, anything with batteries. The entity, drawn to the electromagnetic signature of the dying equipment, paused long enough for them to escape through a side passage. "It is hunting us now," Taehyun gasped as they sealed the door. "It is not just following power systems. It is actively looking for us." Reports came in from all the teams. The entity was adapting, changing its behavior. It was learning that the dark, quiet spaces might hide prey. With 20 hours left and only 140 people rescued, Hannah made a decision. "All teams return to the ships with your survivors," she ordered. "What about the others?" Jiho demanded. "There are still over 100 trapped in there." "I know," Hannah said, her voice breaking. "But we are out of time and options." As the rescue teams retreated, Hannah took one last look at the structure. Somewhere in that vast ring, people were waiting for rescue that would not come. And deep in the core, the entity pulsed with blue light, growing stronger with every passing moment. The Galactic Council's deadline passed. The human fleet pulled back to a safe distance as 3 alien warships moved into position. Their weapons were old, antimatter torpedoes from an age when the galaxy was less civilized. But they would destroy the megastructure. "Wait," Hannah broadcast on all frequencies. "Just give me 12 more hours." "Dr. Kim," the council leader's voice was almost gentle. "We have given you time. You rescued 140 people. That is remarkable. But we cannot delay further." "I found something," Hannah said desperately. She pulled up data that Salmon had discovered in the builder's final logs. "Look at this. The builders did not fail because they could not destroy it. They failed because they tried to destroy it directly. Every weapon they used, every attack, the entity absorbed the energy and grew stronger." "We are aware of this," SHLara said. "Which is why we will use sustained bombardment. Overwhelm it with more energy than it can possibly absorb." "That will not work." Salmon's voice joined the channel. She was typing frantically, sending files. "I have run the calculations. Based on what the builders documented, the entity's absorption capacity appears unlimited. It exists partially in subspace. It can shift excess energy into other dimensions. You could bombard it for years and it would just keep growing." Silence on the channel. Finally, the council leader spoke. "Then what do you propose?" Hannah took a deep breath. "The builders tried to contain it by cutting it off from energy. But what if we do the opposite? What if we give it so much energy all at once, in a form it cannot process, that we use its own nature against it?" She explained her plan. The neutron star at the center of the ring generated an immense magnetic field. If they could overload the structure's power systems and channel all that energy through the ring itself, they could create an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to destabilize the star's magnetosphere. For just a moment, the entire structure would become a massive magnetic conductor. "The entity is drawn to electromagnetic energy," Hannah said. "It would be pulled toward the surge, pulled down into the neutron star's gravity well. Once it crosses the event horizon, not even quantum phase shifting could save it." "You would need to activate systems all across the structure," Taehyun said slowly. "Someone would have to manually override the safeties, synchronize the power flow, initiate the cascade. All from the central core, where the entity is strongest." "Yes," Hannah said simply. "It is a suicide mission," Commander Choi stated. "Whoever goes will not come back." "I know," Hannah said. "And I am the one who is going. I designed this project. I pushed for it despite the warnings. This is my responsibility." "The hell it is," Jiho said. "We are all responsible. Every one of us chose to be here." "And I am pulling rank," Hannah said firmly. "Commander, I need 6 hours to prep a ship and run final calculations. Then I am going in." The argument that followed was fierce. Jiho demanded to go in her place. Taehyun insisted his engineering expertise made him the better choice. Yuna argued that she was younger, had less to lose. But Hannah stood firm. She had made her decision. 6 hours later, Hannah piloted a small shuttle toward the megastructure alone. Her ship ran cold and dark, just like the rescue missions. But this time she carried different cargo, override codes for the power systems, detailed instructions for synchronizing the energy cascade, and a small quantum communicator that would work for exactly one transmission before dying. "Dr. Kim," SHLara's voice came over a tight beam laser communication. "I want you to know, what you are doing is remarkably brave. My people will record this in our histories." "Just make sure you record the warnings too," Hannah replied. "About curiosity without wisdom. About the danger of completing what should stay undone." "We will remember," Eshlara promised. The shuttle drifted into the ring structure through a hole in Section 4. Hannah sealed her suit and pushed off into the darkness. The corridors were completely black now. The entity had drained all power from these outer sections. But deeper in she could see the blue light pulsing. It took 3 hours to reach the central core. Hannah moved like a ghost, using hand grips and magnetic boots, staying dark and quiet. Several times the entity flowed past her, its light casting her shadow on the walls. Each time she froze, not even breathing, until it moved on. The core chamber was exactly as Hyun and Nari Park had found it, vast beyond measure, filled with swirling blue light. And somewhere in that light Hannah could sense awareness. The entity knew she was here. She moved to the control console. The ancient systems were still active, still powered by the neutron star's magnetic field even after thousands of years. The builders had designed them well. Hannah began the override sequence, her gloved hands moving carefully over the crystalline controls. One by one she brought dormant systems online throughout the structure. Power distribution networks awakened. Capacitor banks began charging. The ring started to hum with energy. The blue light began to swirl faster, agitated. The entity sensed the power building. It moved toward the outer sections, drawn to the electromagnetic signatures. Good, Hannah thought. Come and get it. She worked for 30 minutes, sweat soaking her suit despite the cold. The calculations had to be perfect. Too little energy and the cascade would fail, too much and she would trigger a catastrophic collapse that might destroy the entire sector. Finally the systems were ready. All across the ring, power levels redlined. Every conductor, every power cell, every electromagnetic coil stood ready to discharge simultaneously. Hannah activated her quantum communicator for its one-time transmission. This is Dr. Hannah Kim. Systems are armed. Initiating cascade in 60 seconds. To everyone on the fleet, I am sorry I did not listen to the warnings sooner. To my team, thank you for everything. And to the Galactic Council, please remember that humanity did not unleash this entity out of malice. We did it out of hope. Out of the belief that nothing is truly impossible. She paused, looking at the swirling blue light. Maybe that belief was naive. But I do not regret having it. I only regret the price others paid for my mistakes. Her hand moved to the final control. Initiating in 10, 9. The blue light suddenly surged toward her, the entity finally recognizing the trap. It flowed through the corridors like a tsunami, racing to reach her before she could trigger the cascade. 4, 3. It burst into the core chamber, filling the space with blinding light. Hannah felt it touch her mind, felt it begin to drain her suit systems, the energy from her body's electrical impulses. 2, 1. She pressed the control. For a single instant, the entire megastructure became pure electromagnetic force. Millions of terawatts discharged simultaneously, channeled through the ring structure toward the neutron star at its heart. The magnetic field collapsed and reformed in a crushing pulse that warped space itself. The entity, drawn to the vast energy surge like a moth to a flame, found itself caught in an irresistible gravitational current. It tried to phase into subspace to escape, but the magnetic pulse was too powerful, too all-encompassing. For the first time in its ancient existence, it had encountered something stronger than itself. It was pulled down toward the neutron star's surface, where gravity crushed matter into exotic forms, where physics itself broke down. And then it was gone. The pulse lasted less than a second. But in that second, the megastructure tore itself apart. Power conduits exploded. Sections of the ring shattered and spun away. The entire structure, weakened by the discharge, began a slow collapse toward the neutron star. On the Determination, they watched in silence as the ancient megastructure died. She did it, Yuna whispered. It is gone. So is she, Jiho said, his voice hollow. They mourned that night. Hannah Kim, who had dreamed of proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. Hyun and Nari Park, who had died trying to do their jobs. And the 3,000 other humans who had given their lives in this disaster. Engineers and pilots, scientists and soldiers. But they also celebrated quietly. Because despite everything, despite the terrible cost, one human had succeeded where an entire advanced civilization had failed. She had found a way to destroy what could not be destroyed. The Galactic Council's final report was harsh. It spoke of pride and recklessness, of warnings ignored and prices paid. But it also spoke of courage and sacrifice. Of a species that took responsibility for its mistakes, even unto death. 3 days after the cascade, as the fleet prepared to leave the Void Reach sector, Mina Lee picked up a strange signal. It was coming from the breaking remains of the structure's core, faint and stopping and starting. It is quantum entangled, she said slowly. Like the entity was, but different. Smaller. More organized. They boosted the signal strength. And through the static noise, they heard a voice they thought was gone forever. This is Hannah Kim. Consciousness matrix, stable. Structure, quantum core, preserved neural pattern. The transmission broke up repeatedly, but the meaning was staggering. Somehow, in that instant before the cascade, Hannah's consciousness had been imprinted on the structure's quantum-level systems. She was not alive, not in any traditional sense that they understood. But she was not entirely gone either. How is this possible? Jiho whispered, his hands shaking as he tried to clean up the signal. Salmon worked frantically at her console. The entity existed as a quantum pattern. When the cascade happened, when Hannah was in direct contact with both the entity and the core systems, her neural patterns must have been copied into the quantum substrate. It is like her mind became part of the structure's memory. Can we retrieve her? Bring her back somehow? Yuna asked desperately. I do not think so, Salmon said sadly. The structure is collapsing. Whatever quantum matrix holds her consciousness is fragmenting. We are lucky to get even this much communication. They worked for hours to stabilize the signal. Hannah's voice came through more clearly, though still broken by static. Do not mourn too much, she said, and they could almost hear her smile. I made my choice. The entity is gone. That is what matters. Hannah, is there any way we can save you? Jiho asked, his voice thick with emotion. No. Structure collapsing. But I need to warn you. Other structures exist in galaxy. Ancient prisons, like this one. Some doors should stay closed. Promise me, you will remember. We promise, Commander Choi said firmly. We will make sure every species in the galaxy knows. We will mark every ancient structure we find. No one will repeat our mistake. Good. Tell my family. I'm sorry. Tell them. I died doing something important. Tell them. The signal broke apart into static. They tried for another hour to re-establish contact, but the quantum patterns were degrading too fast. The megastructure continued its slow death spiral into the neutron star, taking with it the last traces of Hannah Kim's consciousness. The fleet left the Void Reach sector carrying survivors, casualties, and a story that would change the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council convened one final time regarding the incident. The crystal alien stood before the assembly, his body no longer showing arrogance. We judged humans too harshly and too leniently at the same time, he said. Too harshly in assuming they could not succeed. Too leniently in not making them understand the full weight of ancient warnings. This tragedy belongs to all of us. Shlara rose to speak, her 4 eyes solemn. But we must also acknowledge what humanity showed us. When faced with their mistake, they did not run. They did not hide. Dr. Hannah Kim gave her life to fix what her curiosity had broken. That is not recklessness, that is honor. The council voted unanimously to create the Hannah Kim Protocol. Any ancient structure found in the galaxy would be studied extensively before any construction or activation. Warning beacons would be placed. Multiple species would need to approve any intervention. And the story of the Void Reach incident would be taught to every spacefaring civilization. On Earth, in a small ceremony attended by thousands, they built a monument to the lost. 3,000 names were carved into black stone, with Hannah Kim's name at the top. Beneath the names, they inscribed her final warning: some doors should stay closed. Jiho stood before the monument, his hand pressed against Hannah's name. We learned the lesson, he whispered. I promise you we learned. 6 months later, the first ancient structure was discovered in the Kilo system. It was a pyramid floating in space, covered with warning glyphs in a dozen dead languages. The discovering ship, a joint venture between humans and Threnquat, immediately withdrew and placed warning beacons around it. What do the warnings say? The human captain asked. The Threnquat translator studied the glyphs carefully. They say, sealed for eternity. They say, do not wake what sleeps. They say, we do not need to know more, the captain interrupted. Mark this location as forbidden. The Hannah Kim Protocol is in effect. They left the pyramid untouched, floating silently in space as it had for thousands of years. And across the galaxy, other ancient structures remained sealed, their secrets kept, their warnings finally heeded. Humanity had proven they could build the impossible. They had also proven something more important, that they could learn from their mistakes no matter how costly the lesson. In the depths of space, In the ruins of the Void Reach megastructure as it fell into the neutron star, the last fragments of Hannah Kim's quantum consciousness flickered one final time. If consciousness could smile in that strange state between existence and non-existence, hers did. She had made her choice. She had paid the price. And she had saved not just humanity, but potentially countless other civilizations from making the same mistake. The entity was gone. The warnings would be remembered. And that was enough. The last trace of her consciousness dissolved into quantum foam, leaving only silence where once there had been light, where once there had been danger, where once there had been hope and pride and terrible, terrible cost. The galaxy moved on, but it moved on wiser. And in the end, that was humanity's true gift. Not the ability to build the impossible, but the wisdom to know when building was the wrong choice, and the courage to accept the consequences when they were wrong.